Here we go. All right, so welcome everybody. Ralph Havens, autoimmuneanswers.com, and had some really cool stuff that our friend told us about, told Jen, and I want to tell you a little bit about it. It's something that I've known for a while, and it's just really cool that somebody's getting this information out so people can get healthy and get their health back. So, and I'm talking mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, path and purpose, and physical health. So years ago in college, back at Texas A&M, I went to hypnotist because I wanted to change something. I had this crazy addiction to Bluebell ice cream. There's a little creamery in Brenham, Texas, and they had something called Bluebell ice cream. They had cookies and cream ice cream. I think they might have been the first ones to put it in, and it was so good. And I was just dreaming about it and wanting it every single day. I mean, I ate ice cream as often as I could. I could eat a whole pint of it. I could eat more than that. And if it was in the house, I'd eat it. And I was a runner. I'm still a runner. And I wanted to be fast. I knew that, you couldn't have less weight would make you faster. And it's not like I was overweight, but I was kind of soft around the middle. But I had this terrible addiction to ice cream, to sugar. And I went to this hypnotist, and he didn't think it was such a good idea to hypnotize me to make it so that I would never eat sugar again or ice cream. But it started me down a process. It took many years to learn the truth and to shift this. And I no longer have that kind of addiction anymore. So what was going on back then? I was reading stuff and reading the newspaper, and there was no internet back then, but people were saying, all the scientists and all the doctors and everybody, all the health people were saying that there's this food pyramid, and you have the grains as the big carbohydrate thing, is the thing to have most of. And then, fats were very, very up at the top, very little fats and just a little protein, and mostly grains, and then a few fruits and vegetables. And they talked about sugar being a clean burning fuel, that it just burned very clean, and you should eat carbohydrates, and sugar was good and it burned clean. And the culprit for heart disease and diabetes and everything else that was bad for your health was fat, especially saturated fat, like fat from animals. And so I did what I was told and what I saw in the research in the journals. And it was actually published in 1967 in the New England Journal of Medicine, the highest of peer-reviewed journals, like the gold standard of journals of medical journals of scientific research. The highest of the highest journals said these Harvard scientists, doctors, I believe they might have been MDs, doctors, had done this big review of all the scientific research and said that sugar was causing heart disease and diabetes, and that and the culprit for heart disease and diabetes was saturated fat. And so I was eating bagels without butter, and I was eating bagels with grape jelly, and I was drinking Cokes, and I was eating M&Ms, and those were clean burning fuels, good for runners, right? Used energy and didn't turn into fat. And so recently there was a study that came out, not a study, there was what was found in another very highly peer-reviewed journal, the Journal of American Medical Association, the highest of the highest. And they found that those Harvard doctors were actually paid by the sugar industry to absolutely lie and perpetuate fraud, absolutely lie and say that sugar was clean and that there was no problems with it, when in fact the research clearly demonstrated that saturated fat from animals that eat grass was very, very heart protective and very, very protective to guard against diabetes, and even now we're knowing against cancer. And that the culprit, the bad guy, was processed sugar. And so they absolutely flipped it And they actually won an award, the Sugar Council or whatever that was called, for their PR campaign that got that information out to the world for many, many years. So much so that even cardiac doctors and nurses to this day still think that fat is the culprit and that sugar is okay. You know, not great, but okay. And so there was this guy that just released a film. I think it's called The Sugar Film. And our friend was telling us about it. And he was on a very low, no processed sugar kind of way of living. And he thought he would make this documentary. So he didn't just eat M&Ms and Coke. He had health food. So all the stuff with the little, sun and natural labels and, granola bars and all these different muesli and all sorts of really good stuff that that said, low fat and it had good sugars in it, the coconut sugar and all that kind of sugar, but also had some processed sugar, but organic and very, very high. You find it in the health food stores. And so the average Australian, he's Australian, the average Australian, an American, eats about 40 grams of processed sugar a day. That's the average. Some people eat a lot more. Back in the day, I think I was eating a lot more. And so he did the calculations and kept his calories the same. So he didn't increase his calories, and he changed his diet so that he was eating all these health foods that that were found in health foods type stores, natural grocers, but that had sugar. And he got his grams up to 40 grams a day. And within a couple of months, he had developed fatty liver disease. And he was on his way to diabetes and coronary artery disease in 60 days. So it's like crazy, right? Like, why would medical doctors absolutely defraud people knowing that it was going to kill people? Early death. I mean, diabetes and heart disease, those are, that along with cancer, are the leading causes of death. So it's kind of like, why? It's like, it just makes you go, why? Because, back in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, the early 80s, I was following what was the guidelines in the medical system, in the media, to be healthy. I wanted to be a good runner. I wanted to be healthy. And I had this sugar addiction, but sugar wasn't bad, supposedly. And fat was bad. And it was actually completely, absolutely wrong. Completely, absolutely wrong. So over the years of getting more and more in line with ancestral ways of eating and living, Jen and I have noticed that a lot of conditions that we had, and I'm talking mental and emotional conditions, deep spiritual type pains and anger and codependency, those kind of things are cleared. And a big part of it had to do with not eating sugar and not eating other things that were harmful, but putting good things in that were supporting our health. And so, from an integrative manual therapy standpoint, my medical intuitive training, the liver processes toxins. It releases, it gets rid of toxins. It also makes your cholesterol, which turns into your sex hormones. So your progesterone, your testosterone, estrogen, and so that helps with a sense of well-being. And so if you don't have that liver doing well, your sex hormones aren't doing as well. If you have infertility issues or you have other issues in the men's and women's health issue department, it could be related to a liver problem, a fatty liver type situation. And in a mental, emotional, spiritual process, in the traditional Chinese medicine and the integrated manual therapy, the visceral manipulation models, we find that the liver also processes anger. So if you're dealing with a lot of anger, this could be something. And it might even be disguised as anxiety. Like with me, it had a lot of anxiety components to it, but underlying that was a deep anger. And a lot of it was just, I was eating sugar and my liver was having a really hard time. The liver also processes codependency patterns. The other side of that liver, though, is path and purpose. So if you want more motivation to get on your path, to do your purpose, to live your life in a way that's meaningful for you, this could be good. Letting go of anger, letting go of codependency, and getting more in line with your path and purpose. So this is the session for you today. Every day I've been doing a matrix energetic session and putting it out on videos. You can subscribe on the YouTube. You can friend me on Facebook. And as long as I still have friends available that can, at some point they limit that. But you can join us each week and each day. And if you do this one thing, it could make all the difference in the world. So a year or two ago, I did a 4-part video series about end autoimmune now and end anxiety forever. And so it was a 4-part video series. It's a free training. I'll put it in the link. It's in the link below in the Facebook, and in YouTube it'll be up here, and in the podcast it'll be in the description. So so look for that if you want that, and let me know how it's going with your nutrition, and you know, as we uncover more of these things, these lies that have been told to us about how to be healthy and happy and whole, we can actually get our health back and get happy and get whole. And I'm talking the mental, emotional, and spiritual, as well as the physical. So so look for more of that type of information. Comment below and subscribe. And you can go to, let me see what that site is. I've got the link right here. Here we go. It's ralphhavens.com/autoimmune answers. ralphhavens.com/autoimmune answers. And you can grab that training, and I will see you all tomorrow. All right. Bye now.